have a 138 as well.
The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to this.
Well, the joys of live radio, and I don't even know how to operate my own machines. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the, I almost said paranormal guys, a little early for that. Welcome to Sportcat's Daily Gazette. We are the what do we call it? Anti-prepper. We're the doom and gloom that makes you smile and cheer and laugh at others. So come over, find us. We're live on Radio X in Australia. Good morning to you. I know it's midnight there, and you probably don't want to hear a Southern American screaming, but hey, welcome. We're here. And let's see. We're live on Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio, and, well, we're on YouTube, Kicks, Twix, Tang, Twing. We're on a bunch of things. We've got a great chat. We have Denise in the chat. Hello, Denise. How are you? I see Chris and Wendell in there. Hello, Wendell. Hello, Chris. I hope you're both having a great day. KG, man, you're going to get some rain today. Welcome, KG. Gary, welcome. We're glad to see you here. Please hit that thumbs up and subscribe button, all of y'all. Let's see, who else have we got in here? It looks like that's about it. KG said his dog was listening to that music and going crazy. Well, I was too, because I think it was the wrong music. I am fired up today, folks. Well, hold on a minute. Why is it showing that screen? It's not supposed to be showing that screen. Hold on. I got to fix this. So yesterday, we talk about how we are trying to be the anti-prepper show, the anti-doom and gloom, we're, doom, death, we're going to die today, that type of thing. So we talk about that. Well, yesterday I watched those shows so that you don't have to. And yesterday, one of them has this great headline, red alert. He's got his head in his face, doom, breaking news. And the first story he leads off with is there is not enough cream or milk or whatever it is, the white stuff in the center of an Oreo. What? That's what you got as a prepper show. That's what you got. And then he goes into, and I'm talking to you, I know you watch me. Then he goes into a story about how a Border Patrol canine is rescued, but doesn't bother to say how the Border Patrol canine is. Don't worry, I got you there, buddy. And then this morning, I'm watching another one. He's an accountant by trade, and, well, he's got thousands of followers, probably hundreds of thousands, and he says Kroger's can't get food. Cool. I Googled Kroger in the news to find out what their food disruption is. Nothing. Somebody told him. Okay, so here's the way it works. If you're going to have a news story, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, you need to be able to show something on this screen that says why, except for the filling in your damn cookie. I'm a fat kid, and that story didn't even affect me. Jesus Christ. So I'm fired up today, folks. I'm sorry. You just can't have a prepper show if that's the way you're going to be. If you're going to be all doom and gloom and the clickbait and the red alerts and the shit exploding everywhere, you lead with Oreos? That's what you got? God. The news was so good yesterday, the Canadian prepper didn't even have a show. The economy is up. Food supply is up. The stock market is up. What else do you want? It's no doom and gloom. And I will get into this later today, they lowered the DEFCON level. None of the prepper shows reported that. This guy did, and I'm also reporting it's been lowered. Oh, I'm fired up today. All right, so we start off today with, what is today? Today is International Hummus Day. What is hummus? Well, I don't know what hummus is. Somebody have to fill me in on that one. So, yes, KG, it has been pouring. You're going to get hammered. I thought the same thing, Denise. My mom bought those. And I'm like, why would you bother? Let's see. It's Hamilton Day. It's National Apple Pie Day. Well, I'll take a pass on that one. I don't dislike apple pie. It's just not my favorite. National Fruit Cocktail. Fruit cocktail. Don't know that I know of a fruit cocktail. Children's Fallen Patriots Day. Today we honor the pain and sacrifice of children who have lost their parents. Well, that's a good thing. Cough Drops Day. Well, that's good. I'm probably going to need one today after screaming into this microphone. It's Harry Potter and Cursed Child Day. I got nothing. Pretty in Pink, Women's Whisperings Angel Wine Council event. Oh, apparently that's something that's taking place. I don't know. It's Fair Trade Day. Well, good news. We're getting deals on tariffs passed. Yeah, the economy's getting better. IEE Global Engineering Day. National Drew Day. Do I know a Drew? I got a fan that's a Drew. National Anita Day. I had a fire instructor named Anita. National Crouton Day. I prefer chips on it, like Doritos or tortillas. National Frog Jumping Day. Wow. My grandson was just scared by a frog over the weekend. We bring awareness to different kinds of frogs and their impact within our ecosystem. It's National Leprechaun Day. Okay. I don't want to find a leprechaun hiding anywhere here in East Tennessee. So it's Sex Differences in Health Awareness Day. Learn the differences in health conditions regarding different sexes. The Sex Differences in Health Awareness Day. Well, you know what? If you had watched last Wednesday's Paranormal Guys, you would have got a great lesson on that. So here's a note. Go back and check it out. It's Top Gun Day. I like that movie. I heard they were filming another one. It's Tulip Day. And today's birthday, it's Candace King. I'm not sure who she is. Oh, Vampire Diaries. Debbie Ryan. She was a singer, wasn't she? No, it says she was acting most of her life. Phelan Gabaya, reality star. Okay. Haru Frenchie's birthday. Well, Frenchie, happy birthday. Morgan Wallen. Well, you know what? He's from right here where I sit. Yeah, that's right. Morgan Wallen, it's his birthday. He'll probably have a drink or two. Quad Webb. Robert Pattinson's an inside joke if you're in East Tennessee. Stephen Colbert's birthday. Zen Shimda. Well, Zen, happy birthday. And Stevie Wonder, the iconic singer. Oh, well, happy birthday, Stevie, even though I believe Stevie has already left the building. I'm not sure on that, so I'd have to fact check that. You see, there it is. If I'm going to report it, I got to fact check it. So let's catch up in that. Oh, okay. Humus is chickpeas. Actually, like, what are they, freeze dried where they get crunchy and they put like ranch powder and spicy pepper on them? Okay, and Gary says hummus is a spread from down under. Okay, cool. I have had it actually. Now I've had the spicy one, the chipotle one. Now that I think about it. And Chris says a guy at the gas station just told him the world will run out of oxygen on Thursday. He seemed credible. Well, you never know. Tell him to call the Popular Report. Yes, I am trying like hell to get a show war going. So, and Wendell says, as long as we have trees and grass, we will have air. Oh my God, y'all just reminded me of another story they covered yesterday. So Britain is talking about, and I've seen the articles, I haven't reported them. They're going to put clouds up to block the sun so that it will lower the temperature in global warming. But the science says that will kill the plant life. And it's a Bill Gates idea, by the way. Science says that low light kills plants that need sunlight, and no plants equal less oxygen. So therefore, why don't we just let Mother Nature take charge and we do the right thing? Wouldn't that make more sense? I don't know. Okay, so yes, and there's actually a story out there about scientists have determined when the world will run out of oxygen. I don't know. I was told by Mrs. Sportcat to put a plant in the bathroom so that we have good fresh air in the bathroom. I'm not sure if that was a hint or not. Okay. National Crouton Day. We covered that. Fruit cocktail. That makes more sense. That's like I thought you were talking about some drink. Okay, fruit cocktail. I like that. Apple Pie Day. Mom makes a mean apple pie. It's National Frog Jumping Day. All right, well, that's all they got. And I was playing with my grandson when I used to be in East Tennessee, and I was trying to teach him how to jump like a frog, but that was a lifetime ago. All right, so historical events. Oh, May 13th. It was yesterday for you guys, I know, down under. Historical events, how Australia was born. In 1787, the first fleet headed by Arthur Phillip set sail with 11 ships of convicts for Botany Bay, Australia. Well, then, all right. That news I did not know. That I did not know. All right. Well, so Arthur Phillips brought some convicts and dropped them off in Australia, where pretty much everything is trying to kill you down under, my friends. I've heard that you walk outside and a plant will kill you. So that's something started in 1787. I wonder if any of my family members were on that. In 1830, the Republic of Ecuador is founded by Juan Jose Flores as president. 1940s, Winston Churchill says, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat," in his first speech as prime minister to the British House of Commons. That should be my mantra here at the Sportcat Daily Gazette. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil. I need to Google that to make sure I understand the meaning. Tears and sweat, because I'm fired up over the Prepper podcast. Jeez. 1981, Pope John Paul II was shot and critically wounded by Turkish gunmen. And that was in St. Petersburg Square, Vatican City. That was after they built the Pope Mobile after that, the square boxy thing. 1989, 2,000 students begin a hunger strike in Tiananmen Square, China, to force a dialogue with the government ahead of a visit by Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Today in history, the final episode of Frasier on NBC Air, but Frasier's back on the air. Frasier, it's on pay-per-view. I've seen it. 1767, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's first opera, Apollo et Hyacinthus, that's probably wrong, written when he was 11. He was a genius, by the way. 1950s, the first ever race of the Formula One World's Driver Championship at Silverstone, England. It was won by Giuseppe Farina of Italy in an Alfa Romeo. All right. Let's see what else we have today in history. We'll just skim through. 1568. Good Lord, we're going back a day or two. Mary, Queen of Scots, is defeated by the Scottish Protestants. All right. She was defeated at the Battle of Langside in Glasgow at just 6 days old. Mary became Queen of Scotland after the death of her father, King James V. Raised in France, Mary returned to Scotland to claim the throne after the death of her husband in 1567. Mary married the Earl of Bothwell, enraging the nobility and forcing her to abdicate the throne. In 1568, she returned to Scotland with an army, but was defeated and forced to flee to England while under the protection of Queen Elizabeth I. Mary was executed under suspicion of concocting a plot alongside other Catholics to murder and overthrow Queen Elizabeth. All right. Well, were the Catholics bad? 1607, settlers arrive in Virginia. This is more like where my family come. The first 100 settlers arrived in Virginia as the first permanent English settlement in America. Jamestown posed many challenges for its occupants, including attacks by warriors from the local Algonquian Confederacy. One notable settler, Captain John Smith, was famously captured by them and later saved from execution by Chief Powhatan's daughter, Pocahontas. During the first 2 years of settlement, Jamestown's residents faced starvation and the constant threat of attack. Little improvement was made until John Rolfe cultivated the first tobacco plant, sparking an economic boom, and on April 5th, 1614, he married Pocahontas, establishing a short-lived peace between the settlers and Native Americans. 1846, the United States declared war on Mexico. All right, well, history may repeat itself. 1862, Robert Smalls escaped slavery by stealing a ship. off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. Born into slavery in 1839, Robert Smalls spent most of his childhood working as a house slave and hotel waiter during the U.S. Civil War. He was an enslaved crew member working as a pilot on a ship called the Planter. The owner of the ship contracted the vessel for use by the Confederate Army in Charleston, and Smalls used his position to his advantage, sailing the Planter away from its enslaved crew while the white crew members were ashore. Sailing to a nearby wharf, he was met with 16 family members of the enslaved crew and allowed them to board. He then sailed north, where they were legally free, and surrendered the ship to the U.S. Navy. Smalls remained an influential figure throughout the war and Reconstruction era. Very nice. In 1985, the Move bombing in Philadelphia. The Move bombing takes place in Philadelphia, resulting in extensive damage, several fatalities. Move, originally called the Christian Movement for Life, was a West Philadelphia commune that advocated for natural living as well as black liberation. The group had prior run-ins with local law, but in 1985, tensions reached a boiling point when neighbors on the Move commune complained of unsanitary conditions, loud noise, and violence in the neighborhood. Police obtained search warrants for various members of Move, and 500 police officers descended on the commune, resulting in a shootout between the two groups. The conflict ended when police dropped 2 bombs. We could do that? Bombs on the compound's roof, sparking a fire that killed 11 Move members and destroyed 65 homes in the neighborhood. Move then filed a lawsuit against the city and was awarded almost $13 million in damages. Okay, follow the money. Who got that and why? And since when could the police bomb? The police drop bombs. I've never heard that. I've never heard that. I did hear in Houston, I think it was Houston, there was a guy who was holed up in a parking garage and had shot several police officers. And they sent a drone up there, or a robot basically, to video and communicate with him. And when he wouldn't give up, they blew the drone up. I had heard of that, but I don't know. Let's see. That's not going to work. Wendell says that's not going to work. We have several million women having hot flashes at the same time. Oh, Wendell, you're misgynecological. Native Americans had bad immigration policies. Wendell, you are on a roll. You're killing me, Smalls. Gosh, Wendell. Now you can't be a cop and shoot back when shot at, but you could bomb back in the day. That does strike me as a little odd. I've never heard of the police dropping a bomb. Well, alrighty then. All right, so this comes to us from the Daily Mail, which is, well, it's a European newspaper, they're overseas. At least 10 people hospitalized after catching a deadly superbug, listeria, from popular sandwiches. 10 people have been hospitalized with a deadly foodborne illness tied to go-to sandwiches, according to a federal investigation. The FDA investigators found listeria on company equipment at a factory run by Fresh and Ready Foods. Well, it doesn't sound like they were fresh already. Over 80 different products have been pulled, including sandwiches, pastas, and snack boxes. They were sold or provided to hospitals. Yeah, that's a good place to give them. Hotels, corporate offices, and convenience stores, airports, and airlines. Let's give those to the hospital. Why? That's an article for you preppers to report. They are putting sandwiches with listeria into the nursing homes and hospitals to kill old people. There you go. I'll give you a headline, guys. If you run with it tonight, I'm going to die laughing. The products have a Best Buy date from April 22nd to May 19th under the brand names Fresh and Ready Foods, City Point Market Fresh Food to Go, and Fresh Take Crave Away. They were distributed to various facilities in Arizona, California, and Nevada, and Washington. And it was a Republican plot. Sent to those states, it was a Republican plot. FDA and CDC investigators. I see how they can turn these news stories on a dime. FDA and CDC investigators first flagged the outbreak in 2024 by looking at hospital admissions and public health data, with the latest case reported in January of last year. But the FDA couldn't pinpoint it because they weren't looking within. The break they were looking for came in April of 2025, when routine testing at the Fresh and Ready facility uncovered the listeria strain on production equipment that genetically matched the outbreak strain. Ooh, the government caught themselves. Whole genome sequencing analysis confirmed that the strain of listeria found at Fresh and Ready Foods, LLC, matched the strain causing illnesses in this outbreak. And it was probably manufactured in China. I'm just going to throw that out there. I want to give these guys everything they got because it's a good news day. Listeria is caused by a bacterium. I can't pronounce that word, but it's a big bug that can range from mild to severe. More mild cases resemble the flu, causing fever, nausea, vomiting, muscle aches, and a headache, but the infection can be deadly for certain vulnerable groups. In pregnant women, the Republicans don't want pregnant women. It raises the risk of miscarriage, low birth weight, health problems for newborn, and infant death. Other symptoms in adults include fever, muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, stiff neck, confusion, loss of bowel, convulsions, and death. Hell, I got 9 out of 10 of those. Most healthy adults do not get severely ill, but because the immune system wanes off the bug. But older age citizens, 65 and older, I'm almost close, are more likely to die. Better not eat a fast and ready sandwich. They put them in hospitals. Good Lord. Around 90% of people with listeriosis, the infection caused by listeria, require hospitalization, while 20 to 30% of the patients die. All right, good odds. The CDC estimates that of 1,600 cases every year, roughly 260 do not survive. The FDA reported on all the products, and you can go to their website. There are 86 of them. So during the investigation, the CDC, along with state and local health officials, asked 6 of the 10 infected what foods they ate before getting sick. Well, that's probably a good way to start the investigation. Of the 6 people they were able to interview, all were hospitalized and later tested positive for listeria. They confirmed at least 3 of the 6 interviewed patients had recalled products while at several types of facilities: hospitals, hotels, corporate offices, convenience stores, airports, and airlines. See, it's a plot. The investigation showed ready to eat. They probably, God, I'll go on that if I get going on that story. They should have been served at least 3 of those locations. As of May 9th, 2025, 10 people in 2 states have gotten sick from the strain and 10 have been hospitalized. All right, so it mainly is in California and Nevada, but anything that says fresh and ready, do not eat it for at least a little while. So they're addressing the issue. In other words, they're probably going to clean this stuff up. I heard a Harvey Epstein? Well, the Epstein guy. I heard a story on him yesterday that was great. Remember Bonnie and Clyde? I watched that last night. Oh, okay, that's a good movie. And Wendell says it didn't end well for them. Listeria sandwiches never killed people until Trump took office. I'm telling you, they need to run with this story. Massive 7-alarm fire continues to burn at a vacant Baltimore mattress warehouse. Andy, where were you? Firefighters in Baltimore, Maryland are working to contain a massive blaze at a vacant mattress warehouse that has temporarily shut down Amtrak service in the area overnight on May 12th. The Baltimore City Fire Department reported crews responded to the scene at Edmondson Avenue and Bentula Street in West Baltimore around 7 p.m. and seen a man in a wheelchair going away at a high rate of speed. No, that last part I'm making up. On May 12th, Fire Chief James Wallace told reporters outside the building. It was initially categorized as a 4-alarm before being upgraded to a 7-alarm later in the evening, according to social media statements. About 30 residents in the area were moved as a precautionary measure. 200 firefighters fought the blaze, they told reporters. In an update at 7 a.m., the Baltimore City Fire Department said the fire remains contained to the original building. No injuries have been reported, and the cause remains to be determined. And they will be operating with a 3rd alarm equivalent to chase down the hotspots, which is the little pockets of fire they can't get to, and deep-seated fire in multiple locations. and they believe that it was stacked full of mattresses. Whew, that's one that's going to be a hot fire. It's a large basement area the size of a building, and it, yeah, if it had a basement, it got even hotter. So yeah, and they have restored crews. They have restored flight. They have restored Amtrak service as they are still fighting the fire, according to Amtrak. All right, I botched that news story, but I'm sure Andy had something to do with it. All right, so there's two sides of this story. One, we have the great rescuing of a canine dog. Two, we have taxpayers bitching about how it was done. So, a U.S. Border Protection Control helicopter landed in the middle of a street, and it had picked up and taken a dog that was bit by, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm showing you the video, was bitten by a dog, and people are complaining at the resources used to rescue the helicopter. All right, so you saw the helicopter. That's all we need to show on that. When his handler noticed the German Shepherd behavior was declining, an agent radioed air and marine operations to airlift Boo. Boo got shot from Otay Mountain Wilderness to an animal hospital in La Mesa. The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol canine is recovering after a rattlesnake bit him while on duty Friday, but its life-saving effort is what has people talking. Boo was out there doing his job, tracking a group that crossed illegally, and unfortunately, he got bit by a rattlesnake, said Customs Border Patrol agent Estefany Solano. When his handler noticed Boo, his behavior was declining, he radioed air marine operations to airlift Boo from Otay Mountain Wilderness to an animal hospital in La Mesa. We saw a helicopter come up in the sky, basically just hovering down, and we were kind of perplexed by it. So we followed it, and it landed over there. It's just the person that took the video. And traffic come to a complete stop. Yeah, they had the police shut down traffic on all four corners, and they conducted the rescue operation. I just saw the helicopter drop briefly. The guy runs with the dog in his hands. It was German Shepherd, and he started running at us. Traffic was halted north, south, east, and west. One driver jumped out of her car and captured the moment, which is what we saw. The dog was panting. It was kind of sad. Solano said 2-year-old received anti-venom and is recovering. He is stable, and hopefully he'll be back to work soon. Boo's handler is grateful for all the support they received from the community. Our canines are very special to us, so we're very proud, very happy that San Diego was able to support and be concerned about our agent. Boo has been working with his handler for 2 years. Boo, get well soon. Get back on the job. We love you, Boo. So there were people bitching that we wasted taxpayer money for that. And by the way, the person that ran the story about Boo, he didn't name his name. He didn't want to identify it. Didn't follow up today with saying how Boo got. Boo is in stable condition. Boo's getting back to work. We're with you, Boo. I support you, Boo. All right, this one comes to from my home area. Escaped Clayton County inmate stole the officer's keys when she fell asleep. Ooh. Clayton County, Georgia, an inmate who managed to escape from Clayton County Hospital on Saturday got free because the officer fell asleep, the sheriff's office confirmed. Sheriff Levon Allen, a corrections officer, fell asleep, and James Beasley took her keys and got out of Southern Region Hospital. He got out of his handcuffs, shackles, changed into civilian clothes, got on a MARTA, which is just a metro bus or just a city bus, and went to College Park, which is a city not far away. And then Beasley pretended to work at the Parks and Recs Center before hopping into a truck and driving off. And this is from the lady, Veronica Mason. I was like, I know this joker ain't stealing my truck. Well, apparently he was. He led deputies in a chase and was arrested after crashing the truck. The officer, who has not been identified, faces a termination hearing this week. Now, side note, Clayton County, Georgia is on Patrol live every was that Friday and Saturday night from like 8 until midnight or something like that. I'm sure this will come up there, but yeah, that's you don't fall asleep on duty. And she could be having a rough, whatever you call it, shift. And I feel sorry for her, but you got to stay awake if that job. So wisteria grows on a vine in the yard, according to Wendell. Okay. Flip what I said. It's cheaper and morally correct to save the dog. Yes, it is. Did you say something up there earlier, Chris? All right. RFK Jr., well, our Health and Human Services, he took his grandchildren to a contaminated DC Creek for a swim. Seems like a great thing to do there, RFK. Health and Human Health Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. went swimming in a DC Creek Sunday despite a years-long warning against wading in the contaminated waters. Oh, wait for it. It gets better. Kennedy posted on X that he and several family members, including his grandchildren, hiked in Georgetown's Dumbarton Oaks Park on Mother's Day. He said that he and his grandchildren swam in Rock Creek there, posting pictures of himself completely submerged in water. I'm not going to show you that because, well, you can find him on X. Kennedy's X post earned itself a community note attached to it stating, swimming in Rock Creek is dangerous and prohibited by the National Park Service as the creek contains dangerously high bacteria level. The National Park Service has explicitly said swimming and wading in Rock Creek is not allowed due to high bacteria levels that are hazardous for human health. And this gets even better. DC Water has also warned that heavy rains, you're getting some heavy ones right now, combined with sewage systems overflow, often sends waste into Rock Creek and other district waterways. Swimming in DC waterways has been illegal for decades due to poor water quality from the stuff that ran off, the sewage that ran off. So they have been scheduled. Recently, events have been scheduled for swimming the Anacostia River, but are often canceled due to floating sewage. I need a poo sound. All right, so see, there you go. I'm fair. I've went after both sides now. RFK, what the hell are you doing? Swimming? Oh. All right, this is a story that only one prepper reported, and very few mainstream media news coverage was about it. Among the first Afrikaners, refugees accepted into the U.S., 2 families are headed to Iowa. They landed in Dulles yesterday, and my buddy Penguin 6 was there to get some photos. The first group of Afrikaners granted refuge status by the U.S. have arrived in the country. On Monday, the white descendants of mostly Dutch colonizers of South Africa flew into D.C. on a chartered plane. It was an Omni flight. You can look it up on the FlightAware program. Among them were 2 families headed to Idaho for resettlement. The local chapter of the U.S. Committees for Refugees and Immigrants will help 9 refugees settle in Twin Falls. Their arrival was expedited after the Trump administration called Afrikaners as refugees for the first time back in February. The president's executive order came a few weeks after he halted all other refugee admissions. Boise State University global professor Lisa Miarto said the Afrikaners fast-tracked arrival is unusual. Chartering the airplane, making those travel plans happen so fast is really different than typical process we've seen, she said. That is not true. That is false. And you can verify that by going and looking at FlightAware and all the flight logs under the Biden administration from where they brought people in from other countries. So that is a false statement. Those flights were never reported by any of the mainstream media, but my boy over at MonkeyWorks, he reported on it every week. So yes, that was a thing. So don't believe that statement for a minute. Refugees usually have to flee their home and apply for refugee status from a secondary country, often waiting up to 8 years to be vetted. That is not true. They were flown in by a previous administration by the hundreds weekly. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services define a refugee as someone who demonstrates that they were persecuted or fear persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. You have to make the argument that your life would be very much in danger were you to go home, she explained. His pause on admissions left 12,000 already approved refugees in limbo. In some cases, they were getting ready to board a plane to come to the U.S. Boy, they're heightening this one to make it sound horrible. She said, Many of them were family reunifications. Okay, yeah, let's see some facts on that. I'm not going to click on it. We can go figure it out. This comes to from Boise State Public Radio, so there you go. Providing services for refugees for over 100 years, we're hopeful that the arrivals of this group of refugees indicates the government's intention to restart the U.S. refugee program and help other refugees in need of resettlement. All right, so I'm not saying anything racist when I say this, but this was not reported by any mainstream media. And they, in fact, have said that that is not a true thing. So you can go research that for yourself. I'm not having a stroke. Research that for yourself and see. But yeah, there you go. All right. So, this was on another news show. Let me just catch up in the chat here. Let's see. That's a quote from the story. That's a quote from a story in Atlanta. RFK finds it safer to swim in human waste than be protected by government agencies. Yeah. Doesn't he have Secret Service protection? Shouldn't the Secret Service have been like, yo, son, there's turds there. Don't put your grandkids out there. And Denise says, I probably ate dirt as a kid. I'm still here. Well, I'll have you know, I grew up outside the Washington, D.C. region, fished the Potomac River, swam in it, kayaked on it for many years. I'm still here. The only thing we ever worried about was the occasional Potomac whitefish. And that's an inside Northern Virginia, D.C. joke. If you don't get it, tell me in the comments. I will let you know. All right, so this is showing the economy is getting better. Now, this is not per se a career, but I cannot say anything negative about McDonald's because if you're good to McDonald's and work through the system, they will be good to you. McDonald's is looking to hire over 300,000 workers this summer. They will hire a lot of new employees at its U.S. restaurants in the coming months. Now, see, they were one of the ones that were hammered because everything was going AI. The fast food giant announced Monday that its franchisees anticipate they will hire up to 375,000 workers across the country this summer. They called the move one of the biggest hiring pushes in years. Up until its most recent annual report, McDonald's had said over 150,000 company employees around the world were employed that was the record that recorded hiring, but it employs over 2 million people. In the upcoming U.S. hiring push, it prepares to serve more customers over the summer months and looks to increase the number of McDonald's restaurants across the country in the next couple of years. So, well, that must mean the economy is looking better if a major corporation is looking at making more junk food for us, right? That comes to us from Off the Press yesterday at 5:03 p.m. All right, we're going to skip through quickly here because we got a lot of weather news to report. Hollywood unions cautiously welcome Trump's movie tariff proposal. After the initial shockwaves subsided over President Trump's May 5th announcement that he intends to implement a 100% levy on all foreign-made films, Hollywood labor unions ventured cautious optimism at the idea at least someone in Washington might be paying attention to the plight of the industry rank-and-file workers. President Trump has correctly recognized that the American film and television industries faces an urgent threat from international competition. Leaders of the International Alliance for Theatrical Stage Employees, the IATSE, one of the largest and most powerful employment unions, said in a statement. Foreign governments have successfully lured film and television productions and the multitude of jobs they create away from the United States with aggressive tax incentives and subsidies. Films intended for initial release in the U.S. are increasingly being shot overseas, and American workers in our economy are paying the price. The entertainment industry has taken an unrelenting beating over the past several years. Streaming wars, pandemic, mergers, layoffs, strikes, accelerated runaway productions have gutted the industry, leaving record numbers without work and little hope of rebound. Runaway productions generally refer to productions intended to release or broadcast in the U.S., but are actually filmed in another country, are those made by LA-based studios that shoot in other states in order to take advantage of competitive tax incentive, and economic benefits. Atlanta is a large town that does that. We have The Walking Dead is our most famous, but we continuously have films in TV and entertainment being recorded in Atlanta. So anyhow, it looks like they're on board with this, and the union is backing his tariff. So that comes to us from Zero Hedge. Holiday unions cautiously welcome his movie tariff proposal. All right. Here's a story that you probably won't see reported anywhere else. All right. Biden aides discussed wheelchair use if he were to be elected, a new book says. This story is adapted from the forthcoming book Original Sin. There's the cover of it there by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. President Biden's demise, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again by CNN. Oh, he probably needs a job because his network is really going downhill. And CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson. Joe Biden's physical deterioration was so severe in 2023 and 2024 that advisors previously discussed the possibility he'd need to use a wheelchair if he won re-election. CNN Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson write in their new book, Original Sin, which is due out May 20th. Well, why it matters, discussions reflected the extent of the president's declining health, particularly the significant degeneration of his spine and his aides' alarm over it as Biden sought a second term at 81. And by the way, we wish him well. He had a biopsy on his prostate for a unusual lump. So we do wish former President Biden to get well. At any rate, they go in here to talk about the things they didn't talk about during his term where he was physically deteriorating and mentally deteriorating. The book covers it, and they had increasing fears of a fall after he tripped over a sandbag at the Air Force Academy in June of 2023. They began to take more precautions, avoiding a repeat. They tried to figure out shorter walking paths, insisting on handrails for steps up the stage of his appearances, had him wearing sneakers more often, changed his visual briefings before events to ensure he knew every step he was expected to take. That's not necessarily 100% untrue, because they will usually put on gaffer's tape. So, I mean, I can kind of give a buy on that one a little bit, because I'm sure today when Trump is overseas, there's probably plenty of gaffer tape that can't be seen on film where people are told to stand because certain events are lined up to precision, to who walks to who extends their hand first, who shakes with one hand, who shakes. It's a big pomp and circumstance thing. So the tape thing, I can kind of overlook. O'Connor's staff sometimes quipped that they were trying to kill him while he was trying to keep him alive. Okay, let me rephrase that. We'll start up here with this bullet point. O'Connor had privately expressed concern about the toll the presidency was taking on Biden's health. The doctor often argued with Biden's political officials to get more rest time into his schedule. O'Connor sometimes quipped that the staff members were trying to kill him while he was trying to keep him alive. Now, he was on his favorite show, The View, the other day, and he had several sentences that are being quoted by other shows. I'm not going to. You can go hear them. They were incomprehensible, and they brought Jill out, and she did the talking. Personally, I think she should be charged with elder abuse, but that's just my opinion. So if you want to check out this book, it comes from CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson, talking about the decline of the Bidens during the administration. Nobody will push the finger on either his son or his wife. Flip-flop. Whoa. The View host approves of the new pope after learning he has black ancestry. Ooh. The View host, Sonny Hostin, who criticized the newly elected Pope, Leo, the whatever that is, on Friday because his view on marriage and LGBT community aligned with Catholic Church's traditional teachings and appeared to reverse course after learning that he had black heritage. She often Houston, who has often touted her own devout Catholic faith in spite of her support for abortion and other social issues not embraced by the church, said it was a chef's kiss moment when she learned that the Pope Leo, formerly known as Cardinal Robert Prevost from Chicago, had Haitian and Black roots. There's one other thing that's also very interesting to me, because President Trump, as you remember, called Haiti a certain type of country. She began recalling Trump's assertion that Haiti was a S-hole country. As it turns out, our new American Pope has Haitian and Black roots, so we actually have a new Black Pope. Huh? What? Apparently, it's like a chef's kiss for me. So apparently, both of his maternal grandparents are described as Black, Haitian, or mulatto in several census documents. And on their marriage license, his grandfather's birthplace is Haiti, listed as Haiti. Her birthplace is also listed as New Orleans. They were identified as people of color. In 1920, they migrated to Chicago. The census reflected their race as white. Okay. So I'm loving everything about this new Pope. Coast Anna Navarro interjected. So I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. She agreed, and it's good to have a Black Pope. Now, I also saw a news report where he said he did not identify as a Black Pope. You can go Google that yourself, but I read that headline somewhere else. Just 3 days earlier, during Friday's broadcast of the ABC Midday show, Austin raised her concerns about Pope Leo, primarily citing his previous statements on LGBTQ plus community. I'm a little concerned about this choice for the LGBTQ plus community in 2012. He gave an address to bishops, and he lamented the popular culture fostered and sympathy for beliefs and practices that are at odds with gospel. And that's a quote, she complained. And then he cited the homosexual and alternative lifestyle families comprised of same-sex partners and their adoptive children. Well, the article ends there, but apparently he didn't like it. But now she likes him because he's the first Black Pope, even though he doesn't identify as a Black Pope. I don't know. I just read it. So this one comes to us from Zero Hedge, and the title is Who Capitulated? I said that big word. Let's see, catch up here on this. I don't remember eating dirt. Wendell says, I don't remember eating dirt, but I did play it all the time, so it was totally covered. Wendell says, McDonald's employees wear shirts that say Black Family. McDonald's employees wear shirts that say Black Family Restaurant. Okay, I don't understand what you mean, Wendell, or you're going to have to qualify your statement. This comes to us from Zero Hedge, who capitulated. I said it. Following yet another decline in the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, if I recall correctly. But the tariffs are inflationary. The S&P joined the NASDAQ 100 in the green year to date, erasing all the panic puke end of world prognostication. Boy, we've heard a lot of that, haven't we? From the mainstream media and establishment. Reflects the reflexive nature of the global market pain leading to geopolitical negotiations appears to have won out again as uncertainty around U.S. trade policy has plunged. So what will happen to all those CEOs whose sentiment had collapsed to a lower level than at peak through COVID, with uncertainty evaporating? Will they be exuberated? Maybe, just maybe, it's time to ignore all the sentiment surveys and give clear implicit biases. Ignore the propaganda. Doom, gloom, we're all going to die, being pumped out nonstop. And look at, this is what I like right here, hard data. Watch the hard data. If, according to all mainstream media, China would not engage in trade talks without complete tariff surrender. Okay. Now, this comes to us from Yahoo News. It's a screen cap, April 24th. China slams door on Trump. No trade talks. That was dated April 24th. That's a Yahoo article. And in this one here is, who is this one? CBS News. CBS News says China says there are no negotiations with the Trump administration. And that was dated April 24th as well. And then on April 24th, Chinese delegation secretly meets with Gazette in basement of the IMF to usher in the Geneva talks. Chinese delegation spotted entering Treasury Department, demands photo to be deleted, according to the report. So China is demanding that these photos be deleted, showing them entering the Treasury Department to negotiate. And if you recall, you can actually leave the White House and go to the Treasury Department and never go above ground or never let the media know. It all started with a secret meeting 3 weeks ago in the basement of the headquarters during the group's spring meeting. U.S. Treasury Secretary Besant met China's finance minister Lan Fong to talk about their collapse in trade relations. People familiar with the source told Zero Hedge, and we were correct. The encounter led to a weekend of talks in Geneva where Besant and his peers from China agreed to slash their nation's respective tariffs by more than 115 percentage points for 90 days. And so China wants those photos deleted from the internet. Well, and they keep, here's the thing, and you heard this earlier if you were listening on Jurg's radio, we're headed to authoritarian governorship. I don't recall us ever saying that we want the media to remove photos. And China is also guilty in the past week of going after the CIA because they released a recruiting video in Mandarin, which I believe is Chinese or a version of Chinese dialect, saying that they were looking for intelligence officers that were of Asian descent, and China wanted that removed. So who's the authoritarian government? Believe the old men yelling, are you apparently your lying eyes? Chuck Schumer claims Trump caved to the CCP and has given China the bet, and China has gotten the better of Trump. Well, America is winning. Co-parter Chuck. They sent secret delegation to negotiate. Go to Zero Hedge. You can see the pictures of them in the X from Zero Hedge. That'll back that up. And we'll just go ahead. I know that this is not one of the favorites from Jurg's radio, but since I'm into the podcasting world of these preppers with doom and gloom, I've got to cover this one. Tariff-mageddon has been canceled. U.S. inflation stays cooler than expected. Prices up 2.3%, smallest annual increase since February of 21. U.S. inflation edged up in April, less than forecast, defying predictions that tariffs would push up prices at a faster rate. Remember yesterday? They were all screaming we weren't going to have our bologna. We weren't going to have our toilet paper. Go buy, buy, buy. Well, the American consumer remained calm and steady, and we are still righting the ship. So the tariff hikes on April 2nd's Liberation Day against China and other countries, many predicted doom and gloom. Well, in fact, energy prices are down 3.7% compared with a year ago, despite climbing 0.7% in April. Commodities are down 11.7%, declined to 0.02% in April. Gasoline prices have fallen 11.8% over the past year. New car prices, which were expected to be hit by tariffs, were flat for the month. Used car prices fell by 0.5% compared with a year ago when prices were up by 0.33%. And used car prices are only up 1.5%. Well, now still on a $30,000 vehicle, that's a chunk of change to us small folks here. Apparel prices fell 0.2% and are down 0.7% from a year ago. Grocery prices have fallen 0.4% in the month and up 2% over the past 12. Restaurant prices, however, climbed 4% and are 3 to 7% over the year. Okay, so they're up, the restaurant prices. Egg prices, which have been closely watched as a politically potent symbol of inflation, fell 12.7% in April, the biggest decline since 1984. Now, keep in mind, if you go to your Kroger's right now, oh God, Steve Popular, and they don't have eggs, there's not a shortage, and because the price may not be dropped today, it's coming. It takes a while to get from point A to point B to us. Prices of toys, games, hobbies, and playground equipment, a category with a lot of imported goods, fell by 0.3% after declining 0.6% in the previous month. Compared with a year ago, toy prices are down 1.3%. Remember, the media was making fun of him, saying that maybe they only needed one doll. Prices are down if you want to buy more than one doll. Prices of smartphones fell 0.6% and are down 14.6% compared with a year ago. Prices of furniture and appliances, which are largely imported, have increased. Severe inflation accelerated in April by 0.3% after March's 0.1%. Shelter prices rose 0.3%, including a 0.4% increase in rent, the same increase in a measure called owner's equivalent of rent, which is intended to capture the cost of home ownership. Compared with a year ago, rent is up 4%, and the owner's equivalent of rent is up 4.3%. Well, that the real estate market is separate, because when it crashed and people were getting out, there was a lot of larger companies buying them, and they're holding them for higher rates of money to people. We're going to have a 2008 collapse. I think it was 2008, the Bush real estate crash. We're going to have that again. So, I mean, don't think that we're not. That come to us from Breitbart. So, all right, real quick, because we're running out of time. The Chiefs super fan. Do you remember this story? Well, he's a super fan, and apparently, well, he went on a streak of robbing banks, and he has been caught and he has been prosecuted. He's going to serve a 32-year sentence in state prison for robbing Tulsa area banks, a sentence that will be carried out after he finished service time in federal prison. He appeared in the Tulsa courtroom, apologized to the court and the victims in the December 2022 of the Tulsa Teachers Credit Union in Bixby, Oklahoma. So he has expressed sincere remorse and takes responsibility for his actions. He's facing 17 years in federal prison for a series of 11 bank robberies across 11 states. Oh my. And the robberies were also the result of his gambling addiction. I do remember that. So he's going to have that, and then he's going to serve 32 years to run concurrently with his federal sentence, which means after he is released from federal prison, he'll be transferred to state custody and serve out his remaining 14. So how old is this fella? He probably ain't going to get to see the NFL again. So too bad, so sad. This is really a weird headline. It comes to us from Off the Press, and this I'm going to follow up on. The NCAA president is open to Trump's possible sports commission. And the reason that this is really a big deal is because if you follow sports, well, college sports, there has gotten to be basically, for lack of better words, a pissing contest amongst colleges, who has the most money, who can get the most talent. So essentially, they're buying the players to get the championships. So the student player used to be awarded scholarships, and of course, we all know secretively they were given things on the side. But now it's gotten so out of control, they can negotiate salaries from colleges. They can get deals from Nike, from Under Armour, from anywhere, from a milk company. And it's gotten to the point where it's no longer going to be competitive. It's going to be who can afford the best player, which is not the way it should be, especially in college sports. So, all right, so we'll keep an eye on that headline. It's not something you all are normally interested in, but I wanted to just kind of bring it up on the forelight here. Let's see. Does the Vatican consider him as black? Wendell, I believe there's a headline article that said that he did not consider himself a person of color. Wendell says, I know that shirt means black family owner's last name is black, but if you don't know that, you would think it's just racist. And then Wendell goes on to say, did you hear that Trump is going to cut federal tax on people who make under $200,000 a year? I have heard that in the big, beautiful, perfect bill, there's lots of things, but that's to be negotiated out and weighed out by congressmen. They're going to fight and go back and forth on this for the next few weeks. We'll see what happens. I think there needs to be, for both sides to be happy, there needs to be an agreement. But unfortunately, the way it works with DC politics is the headlines is one side gets it all and the other side was the bad guys. So what they need to do is work together for us. We sent them there. Okay. Hour two, welcome to hour two. It's 1 a.m. in Australia. Good morning. I'm sorry you have to listen to my voice, but I have been capitulating for the past hour about things on other shows that preppers show. We are an anti-prepper doom and gloom. The world's got to end show here at the Sportcat Daily Gazette. We are live on Radio X in Australia, Yerg's Radio in the Tampa area. Well, actually, it's a worldwide thing now. Yerg's is international, and Rainbow Radio, and as well as several other things on the internet. If you want to come over and join the chat, we have a great group of chat members. And jump in, the para are normal, 3 words, para are normal, and guys with a Z, and join the chat. What we do, usually in the second hour, is we talk about the president's daily briefing, what's going on with him and in the world. We give you all the news and weather without the secret squirrel stuff. If you want to call and give me the secret squirrel stuff, hey, I'm open for it. All right, so this is FEMA's daily operations briefing dated Tuesday, May 13th, which is what it is here in America. And this was presented to him, probably wired to him, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Currently, there are no significant events or ongoing operations and no new declarations. However, hazard monitoring, heavy rain, flash flooding, southeast, mid-Atlantic, critical fire weather, we talked about this, in southwestern, northern plains, and the upper Mississippi Valley. And no significant events. And there will be one popping up here in the near future. We'll look at the national weather forecast more in depth when we go over to the national briefing from NOAA. But as you can see out in the west, well, that cold front is coming ashore, and that Yankee dander could be falling in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, and California, parts of Utah and Wyoming as well. And then for the rest of the country, on the east of the Mississippi, well, you can anticipate rain or thunderstorms, some quite intense and possibly tornadic along the Carolina coast, all the way inward in Virginia to West Virginia up to Pennsylvania, back around the Delmarva coast, and back around encompassing DC. DC does not normally get any type of tornadic activity, but do not rule it out. Wednesday, the storm is still going to be pounding the East Coast. In that upper level, if you remember yesterday, we talked about it. It was almost like a tropical cyclone. That wind is going to be convectionally pulled back to the west, and the water vapor carrying it, that's going to carry that rain all the way almost across the entire length of the country. And there it's going to be met with the front coming in from the west, from Canada. That's going to cause some severe weather and critical fire weather up in the Midwest, in the Great Plains up there. So, and then Thursday, well, pretty much from the Carolinas up through New England and back across is going to be rainy. So, all right, we'll get to most of it here in a minute. There you look at your severe weather outlook. Marginal, they've actually changed it. East Tennessee could be under the gun later tonight. Marginal risk for the Carolina coast inland and Virginia. And then Wednesday, you're still marginal risk with the severe weather possibly being into the Midwest and expanding Thursday out into the Ohio Valley and further points east. Now today, critical fire weather in the Midwest and in the Southwest. So if you have open flames, please be careful. And then the hazard weather outlook, where they're predicting high winds coming down as this front comes across into the Great Plains, down into the Chicago, Ohio Valley, and then severe weather is potential for that area on Thursday or Friday. And then hazardous heat, we'll talk about that in the Texas area. So FEMA is currently still working to directly repopulate 10 housing missions, and currently they are working 25 field offices, 75 major disasters, plus 11 emergency disasters. These can still be administrative issues. As far as writing checks, it doesn't necessarily mean boots on the ground, but there are basically 75 cases open. So you can go get all the technical data from FEMA on their website, FEMA.org, I believe it is, and get the scoop. All right, so yesterday we covered how this president's briefing is a little, almost fell out of the chair, is a little different than the normal one because we're starting at a much different time. So Monday, we know that he left Joint Base Andrews. He went to the UK, and then from there, he's going to the Middle East. So these times reported are Eastern time. 2:45, he arrived at King Khalid Airport, which is 9:45 a.m. local there. And he was only allowing pre-credentialed media. Actually, I shouldn't say he. That would be the Saudi government. At 3:10, he will depart there and go to the Ritz-Carlton, and where he will stay or he will take him 30 minutes. At 3:40, he'll get there. And then at 4:50, I'm assuming this is a bathroom shower break. But I don't understand it because it seems to me they have all that on Air Force One. I don't know. He's going to be at the hotel for an hour, and then he's going to be back out on the road at 4:50 a.m. local, which is 11:50 a.m. local time. So he's going to spend about an hour at the Ritz-Carlton. And I've already seen the media reporting that he's sleepy. Well, it's called jet lag. So he's going to arrive in the Royal Court at 4:55 a.m. Actually, I should say these have already occurred. 4:55 a.m., he arrived in the Royal Court, and he had his out-of-town travel pool with whomever was with the other government. And there's going to be a meeting there, and it's going to be with the out-of-town travel pool. And he participated at 5 a.m. in a Saudi state visit. 8:05, he arrives back at the Ritz-Carlton. This is 10 a.m. he arrives there, rather. And then at 9:35, he is departing there en route back to the airport. So he's only going to be there for about, an hour, 25 minutes, an hour and a half. And then he arrives at the airport the International Conference Center at 9:48. He did arrive at 9:40 a.m., which is 4:40 local time. And then he participated in a investment forum, which is at 4:45 local, 9:45 a.m. And then 11:20, he is departing there to get back to the hotel at 11:25. And then at 12:50, so what is that? Just an hour, 20 minutes-ish, he's going to go back to the airport. So I'm sorry, no, not the airport. He's going to have a meeting at the World Heritage Site at 1:10 p.m., which was an hour ago, which was 8:10 p.m. local. 1:15 Eastern, he participated in a dinner, which was 8:15 their time. At 3:05 today, he will go en route to the Ritz-Carlton, and at 3:25 p.m. our time, 10:25 p.m. their time, he arrives at the Ritz-Carlton, and they're probably putting a lid on him. We do not have his schedule for the day after. So he's having a busy day. I've seen some press reports saying, "Oh, sleepy Don." It's called jet lag, people. I've experienced it. We've all experienced it. So get a life. All right. Catch up in the comments real quick. Wendell says, we've been having storms every night. Welcome to the South, Wendell. Welcome to the South. Pop-up thunderstorms. All right, so DEFCON warning system, public statement, level blue. If you remember yesterday, I reported that it was raised basically Friday in the late afternoon, and now they have lowered it. I'll read the article, but no one else reported this that I could find. No media, no prepper show. Nobody reported this. So this is me and me only. And you can go find this at, what is it, DEFCON warning system. You can Google it and come up with it's the World Nuclear Public Threat Advisory System. The DEFCON warning system has officially lowered its alert status from yellow, condition 3, to blue, condition 4, effective immediately. And this article came out May 12th, which was yesterday, so it must have come out after we were on the air. The decision follows significant developments in the ongoing situation between India and Pakistan, which prompted the alert level raise. As we reported, tensions between the two nuclear-armed nations reached a critical point with active hostilities along the line of control, missile strikes, and combatants between both sides. The DEFCON warning system raised its level to yellow during this period to advise the public. Notice nobody advised the public with this guy to remain cautious and informed given the heightened risk of escalation. And if you click on this, it shows you the nuclear countries and their different levels. However, recent diplomatic efforts have resulted into a ceasefire agreement, which is currently holding without significant violations. If you remember last night, there was some popping back and forth at each other, but it was quelling down. It may have taken time to get to the front. Both India and Pakistan have publicly reaffirmed their commitment to de-escalate. There has been a marked decrease in the provocative military actions. Let me repeat that so everybody knows I'm correct here. There has been a marked increase in the provocative military actions. Did I say increase? There's been a marked decrease in the provocative military actions, including a significant reduction in cross-border skirmishes and aerial incursions. If you remember, we were talking about they were still setting pot shots back and forth across the border yesterday. While the region remains fragile and the potential for renewed hostilities cannot be entirely dismissed, the immediate threat of escalation to nuclear conflict has receded. Our decision to return to the blue alert status. Blue reduces this new reality while continuing to encourage vigilance. We remind the public that blue does not indicate a return to complete normalcy, but rather a situation where immediate threats have lessened. The DEFCON system will continue to monitor developments closely and adjust alert statuses as needed. As always, we urge the public to stay informed through official sources and remain prepared for any future developments. All right, so that comes to you that they have lowered the system. I'm not going to show you the other one because, well, they hadn't updated their system and they were still showing us at DEFCON 3. So, but the official one has lowered to 4, where condition blue. Now, the terrorist threat level is still elevated and it is substantial. In UK, in Australia, it is probable. So it is still high. We're not totally out of the woods, but nuclear, we're a little bit better. So Wendell says, get a belt for your chair. Wendell, I've got more cushions on this 1945 Cold War era chair than I care to talk about. All right, so the forecast weather today, Tuesday, 13 May, I talked about the cold air coming in from the west, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, parts of Montana, and Nevada, Nevada, Utah, and California and Wyoming can see potential mixed precipitation. And then critical fire weather is down to the south in Arizona and New Mexico, as well as up here along the Canadian border. And when we look at the map in a little bit, we'll see across the Canadian border in that same area, there are multiple wildfires. Now, the chance for rain and thunderstorms, pretty much, let's just divide it the middle of the country. We'll say the Mississippi to the Atlantic, all the way up almost into New England and all the way down to the Keys. There's a chance for some storms. However, the most significant of storms and heaviest rains will be in North Carolina from the coastal line inland all the way into southwestern Virginia, up into the Chesapeake, the Delmarva area, over D.C., parts of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware are all anticipated to anticipate heavy rain and flash flooding. So if you're thinking about going swimming in any creeks, be looking for turds. That's a different kind of forecast, isn't it? All right, so tomorrow's forecast for the United States, well, that cold front's going to push in a little bit, so the snow or mixed precipitation will pretty much stay in the higher elevations, but moving slightly to the east. It's meeting up with that whip around from that cyclonic thing that we talked about. It wasn't really a tropical storm or a tropical cyclone, but it really resembled one, and it's just pulled in the rain into it and just it's drenching Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania today and again tomorrow. And actually, they're going to have some lows pressing in. It's not going to help the situation either, with some Atlantic winds pushing inward. So they're not going to get a lot of break from wind and rain in the Nova, D.C. area. But the considerable severe weather will be out here in the Nebraskas and South Dakotas and down into Um, Nebraska, South Dakota, and it's not Nevada. Why am I having a brain cramp here? North Dakota. Good God, I said that. The Dakotas, yeah. That's where the severe chance for weather is, including could be tornadic. Day 3, we're going to see that move across. It's going to cross over into the mid coast, mid Atlantic. We'll call it Wisconsin, Michigan. Actually, that's not the mid Atlantic. That is the of the Great Lakes region, Wisconsin, Michigan. It's going to extend down into Indiana and Illinois, and probably into the Ohio Valley, and maybe a borderline into Kentucky for some severe thunderstorms. This day 3, so I don't want to get too far ahead, but that's the way it's looking at the moment. Let's go back and see what other predictions the National Weather Service has for us. I don't believe there's anything in the tropics, whether the Atlantic or the Pacific, that they are watching. There is not. And we will take a look at some other maps and see what's going on. So these are 2 different views and 2 different forecasters, but these will give you their opinions. The top is NandoCast, and they're calling this the Torcon, which is the tornadic outlook possibility. There were several, we talked about this, I believe, water spouts spotted off the Carolinas coast, the Outer Banks, and down into Florida yesterday. I don't know that any made land, but there were several water spouts. But today they're calling the NandoCast is calling for a slight chance from Norfolk down to the Outer Banks of tornadic activity, with that decreasing going inland. And we see over the Alabama, northwestern Alabama, the potential is there according to the NATOcast. If you get down here to the NOAA one, they have it as a 2% chance, and they have it extended into Alabama and Louisiana. Mississippi. So they only have it at 2%, and they have it as just slight for pretty much for the DC region down through the Outer Banks. For the wind today will be heaviest southwestern Virginia down into the Appalachians in the Carolinas, and on the east side of the Appalachians where the wind will probably be the most intense. And now up in the Great Plains, up in the Dakotas, you can see some winds, and that's kind of worrisome with the potential for fire weather. And in the NOAA, we see below it down here, the middle one, bottom, they're calling a 5% chance from pretty much Chesapeake Bay, all of Virginia, all of the Carolinas for being windy. And they're saying that small section of northwestern, Alabama is relatively slight, and they're calling it a 5%. The hail, yeah. They're looking for central North Carolina to have the most chance of hail activity. That's going to extend almost to the Outer Banks, all the way up into southwestern Virginia through up until Louisville, and really the tip of Tennessee up there, the tip of northeast Tennessee up there in the mountains on the western side of the Appalachia. And down in northwestern Alabama, there's a slight chance there. And with those storms also, they're calling for it up in the Dakotas too. But NOAA is a little less predictive of it. They're saying there's only a 5% chance. So that's their opinion. That's what they think of it. All right. Let's see here. Let's go get the satellite first. We haven't talked about our friends down under yet. They're going to have a warm and, maybe some thunderstorms, a windy kind of day, mainly along the Queensland's coast. And there's a little low right there that is spinning. It's going northwest over towards Papua New Guinea. We'll keep an eye on that. The radar is currently showing mostly it's going to be around Brisbane. Some possible thunder showers. Down into Newcastle, Canberra, looks like you may have a small thunderstorm and some rain up in Queensland and Cairns. And pretty much the East Coast there can expect to get a little bit of rain today, maybe a little bit of thunder boomer. Down in Tasmania, it looks like you're going to have a rainy day again with precipitation scattered across the continent. And then on the west, over in, I'm gonna have to learn to pronounce this eventually. Carnarvon is, well, we'll just call it Shark Bay. They're anticipating some precipitation, and it's relatively moderate, but it's staying off the coast. And they're predicting most of the precipitation today to be light and only across the Queensland coast in New South Wales. Not really much precipitation at all. The wind today, well, it's going to be relatively windy, but this high is still down here on the Tasmania side. It's kind of forcing all that weather and wind up to the north and west. For temperatures currently, and I'm sorry I use Fahrenheit to our Australian friends, Cairns 73, Rockhampton 63, Brisbane 65, 61 in Sydney, Melbourne, you're a cool 49, Hobart down in Tasmania, you are 51, 55 in Adelaide, in the center there, the country there in Alice Springs, 55. Ooh, it's warm up in the northern tropics already. 79 in Darwin, 78 in Broome, 75 in Port Hedland. And as we go to the east, it further gets a little chillier, all the way down to Perth, 60. So that is the current conditions in Australia. Let's hop up here, to the U.S. and see what our current temperatures are. We'll start off with our nation's capital, and it is 67, 75 Atlanta, 80 in Tampa, and it's probably about the same down in the Keys. Houston, you are 90. Odessa, 93. It looks like you are the hotspot for the day. Yeah, lower Texas there is where the winter is. And Detroit, 69. Milwaukee, 64. Chicago, 70. Louisville, 74. Memphis, 74. We can see this middle part of the country here is where that heat is coming down, and it's being pushed away. We're going to get a little break from it here in a bit, but right now we got some heat to put up with. Sioux Falls, you're 85. Omaha, 85. Kansas, 82. Tulsa, 83. And Dallas, 87. Get down towards the Gulf of America. In New Orleans, it is 82. 81 in Mobile. And Corpus Christi in Houston, you're in the 90s. Jump over to the left coast, the west coast, and we see that San Diego is a cool 63, while Redding is 62. And in the middle with San Francisco is 59. It's a cool, brisk day. 51 in Medford, 56 in Eugene. Up in Yakima, it's 62 degrees. And in Seattle, it is 58 and probably raining. At your current temperatures, let's take a look at some other weather things. The wind map for today. Yes, Chris, I've changed this one. This is this is from Weather Underground, by the way. This shows that little trough and how it's getting that little wedge in the wind coming in from the Pacific, and it's kind of wrapping around, going back up to Canada. So you're looking at gusts up to 45 miles an hour at the highest, 55 being the highest, maybe over Nevada and off of the coast. Up in New England, well, it's a little bit windier there because that front's pushing up there. It's mainly going to affect Nova Scotia, so it's not too much of a concern for us. And then the other wind, Florida along your Atlantic coast, maybe a little bit there at Jacksonville and in the Midwest, where we're concerned about that fire danger. I'm sorry, the Southwest, there's a chance for a little bit of wind in New Mexico. So we will keep an eye on that. And as far as freezing temperatures, yes, we're still talking about that on May 13th. There are some freezing temperatures expected tonight. Idaho could get down into parts of Idaho could get in the 30s. Parts of Oregon can get in the 30s. California in the 30s. The higher elevations of these areas, 36 in the higher elevations in Nevada. And over in Colorado, even there in the higher elevations, there's a chance for a frost or a freeze. So be weather aware. All right, so this is the biggest news story of the day, and it usually takes center stage during this time of year. It's the heat risk, and green is mild, and purple is, well, you're going to die. So we don't have any purple. Currently up in New England, it is yellow. That gets a little bit of break until you get down to the just north of the DC region, all of Virginia, all of the Carolinas, most of Georgia, Florida, wrapping around the Gulf of America, back over into Houston. It's still yellow, but then when you get into central Texas to the west side of Texas, you're going into orange, where it's a moderate condition. Little pockets of major heat level in there to be aware of in Texas and New Mexico. And then it's moderate through much of the Midwest. And then when you get up to the tippy top up there, the Dakotas, it goes back to orange with little pockets of major. So you want to be weather aware, stay hydrated, and when you go outside, make sure to take precautions, and especially if you're elderly or at risk, sit down, take breaks, get some shade, get out of the direct sunlight, make sure to hydrate plenty. So be weather aware of the heat that is the potential. It doesn't really show us here in Tennessee as having any risk, but I can tell you that, well, it's pretty dang warm right now. But I'm not outside. All right, so let's look at our weather warnings here and see what we got. And currently, South Carolina weather statement, California wind advisory, and Maryland has another test message. And Texas has already issued their heat advisory. They've issued it to several areas. And we look and see that the Dakotas and Minnesota have put out a wind advisory, a special weather statement for parts of Ohio. That's probably the wind coming in. South Carolina, a special weather statement. That's in Chesterfield. Let's take a look at that. A strong thunderstorm over Chesterfield. All right, we'll take a look at that in a few minutes. And let's see. West Virginia, severe thunderstorm warning. It looks to be right in the center of West Virginia. A severe thunderstorm is located near Birch River. All right, we'll get over to that in a minute. And then, of course, all along the coast, we see craft advisories, thunderstorms warnings in North Carolina, West Virginia, and let's see, Kentucky, special weather statement. It appears that Doppler has a strong thunderstorm over Mima, 11 miles southeast of Sandy Hook. All right, so be advised about that. Flood advisory in Illinois. I'm surprised we're not seeing that more for the D.C. region with Maryland, Virginia. See, heat advisory in Texas. All right, so we're getting back down to Guam's red flag warning, heat advisory. All right, so we're getting down into some of the older advisories. Let's jump over here and look and see what the heck it's actually doing right now. We'll get a good look at the radar. This comes to us from GEMA. In this weather map, I like it because it shows everything from your earthquakes, which are your little blue dots, to your warnings, like up here in the Dakotas. We see they've got both wind and red flag warnings. And then if you jump down, you can look at the small pockets of storms. And we see that Gadsden, I'm not sure where you are, Wendell, Gadsden is got a pretty strong little thunderstorm in Alabama. And then back over here to central Alabama, Tuscaloosa South, you have a pretty significant thunderstorm down there. Get up into the Tennessee. There's some here in the East Tennessee region. Nothing too severe. The pink here is still showing the 4.1 earthquake, the effects of it. And we have some thunderstorms back to our east. If I could push play on this, you would see that it's still got a little bit of a spinning rotation to it. With the worst part of this, I mean, we just see that it is hammering the DC, Northern Virginia area, going into southwestern Virginia, parts of West Virginia. That wraparound rain has just been really harsh and hitting them hard, even see down in Charleston and all the way down into Kentucky. We see the strong thunderstorms. That's going to continue. It's going to get off the coast a little bit to spin out, and you may see a rare thunderstorm tomorrow up in the northeast in areas we don't typically get them. But the area they were concerned about with possible tornadic events looks to be right here, centered off of the Outer Banks up to the entrance Chesapeake Bay and inland a little bit on the Chesapeake Bay. Those look to be the most severe areas where they're concerned with tornadic events. I do not see any tornado warnings or watches, however, on the map. All right, let's look and see what kind of electrical activity these things have. This comes to us from lightningmaps.org, and we see mostly there's some little small pockets out over Nevada, but most of this is centered over the mid-Atlantic Appalachia Valley region, really, Tennessee Valley. And we can see here the strongest thunderstorms are south of Knoxville, all the way up through to the northeast in Lynchburg, and as far over as the Outer Banks, even up in Columbus, they're getting some thunder boomers up there. That's where the most electrical activity is at the moment. I could anticipate seeing this shortly. So that's where most of it is. Off the coast down there, Wilmington, and then out towards off the coast, you see some lightning activity. But the most of it, most current, is Charlotte. What is that? High Point up in there towards Greensboro, Roanoke, Lynchburg. You're getting some strong thunder and lightning. Beckley, Bluefield. Logan has got us pretty much storm located over it. We jump down back to Virginia, Marion, Wytheville, getting towards Tennessee, Bristol, Mountain City. It skips down along the Tennessee Valley to get down here to Newport, Dandridge, Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, pretty much all of South Knoxville, back over to Murrayville. And that's going to keep having a little bit of activity for the next several hours. All right, let's take a look and see currently. I'm going to refresh this and see where the power is out most. All right, so currently the number one state without electricity is Florida. They have 11,634 persons without electricity. Virginia has 10,151. California, 9,500. California, 9,581. Mountain Dew's wearing off. Texas, 9,027. West Virginia, 4,133. Let's take a look at Florida and see that mostly it's Citrus County that is having problems with the power, with 7,000 people without power there. In Virginia, when we look, it's Highland and Bath County in the northwest, and then down here in the southwest side, Grayson, and getting back over towards Chesapeake, Matthews in Gloucester. That is got the most. So currently, that is the winners. California, let's just see, yours, nothing really significant to say as far as one particular region, so that's good. And Texas, yours is probably going to be due to the heat. We look at Reeves and Hill and Shelby counties are the most areas without power at the moment. All right, let's go on to our next map. This map is our interactive air quality. I'm going to refresh it a little bit because these thunderstorms have moved the activity around some since I pulled the map up. And we see pretty much code yellow for all of Minnesota, part of Wisconsin. That's going to extend through the Great Plains, all the way down almost into Kansas City and into Kansas. Chicago, code yellow. St. Louis, code yellow. Over on the East Coast, you have New York, code yellow. Back to the left of that, you have Buffalo, Toronto, yellow. We jump down to the south, and we see there's a pocket over, well, it's to the southeast of Birmingham, and in Dallas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Austin, a little section down here, right at the Mexican border, it's code orange. And we see Los Angeles, you have a code orange. And we see that that is extending from Mexicali all the way back up across to the Rocky Mountains, Salt Lake City, Colorado, Cheyenne. You can all expect some poor air quality days. Zoom out up towards Seattle, up in there, pretty good. You get over into just north of Spokane into Idaho and back into Montana is where the next little bout of code yellow air is for the day. And let's look at one of my favorite maps now, the allergy map. I don't believe this map one bit. As you can tell by my sneezing some days. All right, so we look in pretty much all of the coastline from the Carolinas down to the Keys is clear and mostly inland all the way to the Appalachia. And then you see it's code green, and that extends pretty much to Texas, where it starts to turn a little bit deeper orange into a red as it goes further west. And we look up in the northeast, and, well, they're looking like they're having a fairly decent day in the tip of New England, but you get down to Vermont, New Hampshire, it's code yellow extending back over upper New York. When you get down closer to Jersey down in there, New York City, you're looking at a code red for tree pollen. So that's your tree pollen map. Your breathing index map for the day. The people that will be having the worst difficulties breathing will be out in the Four Corners region, and you can expect there, probably from the heat and the pollen is where that will be. We'll take a look and see if we can see where the aches and pains map is. Yeah, it looks like mostly up in Canada, DC, Maryland, Virginia. That little section right there going up into Jersey, Pennsylvania, that little section on the East Coast, Philly, Jersey, New York, all that. Well, it's going to be achy and painy. Out here in the Colorado Rockies, it looks like the west side for the aches and pains index. This comes to us via the Weather Channel if you want to go check it out. Currently, it's 73 where I am at in Knoxville, Tennessee. All right, we're going to look at the smoke map. I'm not using this for fires. This is from USA Today because this shows every little fire. And we see that the smoke conditions are pretty much from Oklahoma up to, well, Chicago and then back to the west. All of that area where there's large fires and there's small fires, all smoky there. That's going to be crossing down from Canada, the Canadian fires, with upstate New York affecting Vermont and New Jersey and New York. And we can see that down on the south side of the country, the Gulf of America, pretty much if you're a Gulf worker and you're on an oil rig out in the Gulf of America, it's a smoky, hazy day. We'll take a look and see how that's affected with our winds currently here in just a moment. While we were talking about fires, we see that up here where the biggest fire dangers are, Canada already has several fires up to the north into the west that are burning out of control. Most of our fires are currently on the East Coast in Florida, but however, they are starting to break out in New Mexico, Nevada out there. So be weather aware, be fire aware, especially if you're in an area that's high prone to it. You don't even really have to be a high prone area. I mean, there's been areas that get some large fires that move quickly. So be weather aware and beware of your surroundings at all times. But those are where most of the major fires, these little red dots, they signify that satellite or someone has called in a fire, but there are no boots on the ground to confirm it. So some of this could be sparked by, we saw that electrical activity up here in the greater mid-Atlantic region all the way down into the short south. That could also be some of that. So let's look at the overall pictures of the pollen as it travels around the globe. And so we see the fires up in Canada, that smoke is being pushed down and getting convection over the Rockies into the central portion of the U.S. And the fires in the Appalachia, all that smoke and smoke from fires down in Guatemala and Mexico is being pulled up into the Great Lakes region. So that whole area is getting caught with that. While at the same time, that little bit of air that's just not moving much along the Great Lake regions back over to New York, you're just sitting there with some smog and smoke. I don't see much dust coming across and coming into our jet stream or smoke from the fires in Africa or South America at the moment. But as you can see, they are quite significant. If you look over there towards Libya, Egypt, Saudi, all of those areas are smoky and high pollutants in those areas. If you really look over here into Afghanistan and over towards Asia, you see several areas of orange. Now, Australia, you're totally different from us. Yours is pretty much good air quality. Maybe some around the lower west side, on the southwest side, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne. Down in that area, some slight smoke from some of the fires, but it's pushing it up and away, and it's really not that bad, except for maybe in the central part of the country where it's meeting at trough coming in from both the east and from the south and going back across the continent. So, but all of that is being pushed off to the west. You're pushing it all into, what is that? Tijuana? No, I don't know. Where is that? I don't know. I'm going to leave that geography lesson for another day. This is our perfect, big, beautiful globe that is a fan favorite. If you look at this is the wind speeds. They're greater with the darker green, and you can see the circular activity. This is the winds reported by computer satellites, all mixed with AI, giving us a big, beautiful, perfect, round, blue globe showing how the winds are mixing. We see that there's nothing in the Atlantic, there's nothing in the Gulf, and there's nothing really in the Pacific or up towards Alaska. The only fronts that are really pushing are the ones we discussed that are pushing off the shore into the northeast. And with those Pacific winds coming and hitting the Rockies, that area is the windiest, along with that winds coming out of the Gulf of America, following the Rockies up into the great northern states of Canada. And down in South America, you look to be having a relatively wind-free day. Over in Africa, you can anticipate, well, it's going to be a mixed bag, but if you're on the western coast of Africa, you can expect some winds up here. We jump over to Asia, Europe, those parts of the world. It's not very windy at the moment. That probably explains some of the high pollutant areas. Jump down to Australia, and it was as we showed you on the other map. Your winds are coming from the from the east going to the west, and from the south merging in the center of the continent and going back to the west. And aside for those thunder boomers really over along the shorelines on the east side of the country, you're going to have a pretty calm, warm, or decent day. It'll be a little chillier down south and to the southwest, but for the most part, it's going to be a pretty warm, windy day. Go out and enjoy it. All right, so that is our wind with the big, beautiful, perfect globe. Our space weather conditions. Oh, well, the first time we've seen it in a while. It's an R3, which is strong, and that means that there could be radio blackouts possible. Loss of radio contact for about an hour on the sunlit side of the Earth is possible. All right, let's look at the aurora. Remember last night was the flower moon. If you got a chance to go out and see it, the aurora appears to pretty much not be doing anything crazy and staying up in the Great White North and not dropping down into the lower 48. All right, there you have the aurora. Let's see how to get out of that right there. And all right, so this we didn't get a chance to talk about yesterday. And we're going to hit it briefly. We're going to talk about the influenza first off. And this is stats updated May 3rd, which is the most recent ones. And we see that anywhere where it's green, darker green, it's minimal. It's pretty much all of the South up into the mid-Atlantic, except for Maryland. They are still having some flu activity that is mild. New York and New Hampshire, mild, along with Wisconsin. You get out to the west, Oregon is minimal, and drop down, and all of it's pretty minimal, but the states with the deeper shade of green is more minimal. Where it gets to the lighter, it's more active. So you can see that most of the country is getting past influenza as of May 3rd. That was the weekly influenza map brought to you by the CDC. This has been headlines recently. Not a lot of people are reporting on it. Measles cases are still increasing. This is data updated through the 9th, which I think was Friday or close to. And they are saying there are 1,001 cases in the United States, with the majority of them being 20 years and younger, and unvaccinated or unknown is 96%. It's required 13% of those have required hospitalization. Most of them have been 19 and younger, and usually the greater margin is the under 5 group. So far, because we're a decent country with healthcare, there has only been 3 confirmed measles deaths. So there you go. And the cases are confirmed in Alaska, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York City, New York State, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington. Those are the states that have reported confirmed cases of measles. There have been 14 outbreaks. Most of them have been in the Southwest, down in Texas and New Mexico. All right, so that is your measles update. We're hoping that will start decreasing in the near future. All right, we talked earlier about COVID. Oh, actually, no, we talked earlier about them looking at our wastewater. Well, that's also how they measure other things. COVID-19, well, there's a lot of states that are probably having a little bit of a problem with it, such as Louisiana, Utah, and South Dakota. And in some other states where it's relatively low, like Tennessee, up into Pennsylvania, Ohio Valley, it's relatively low. Most of the rest of the country, it's low, but it's still minimal. But Louisiana is very high, in case I forgot to mention that. So that is COVID-19. We'll take another pop at the flu, and we'll see there pretty much as reported, it's relatively low. Tennessee, Virginia, in the South, and the highest regions of it are probably, and it's really not that high, or more out in the West. RSV, which is a respiratory virus, and we see that in Tennessee, it's very low. Mississippi, it's very low. Most of the South, it's very low. The only place that it's relatively higher are like South Dakota and Ohio, maybe a little bit in West Virginia, up in Vermont as well. But for the most part, RSV is decreasing, which is a good thing. And hospital visits are down for everything with the exception of the flu. The flu still has a little bit of hospital rates elevated. All right, so COVID-19, we see it's declining in the Ohio Valley region up into the New York region with the exception of the city. And then it's declining pretty much the whole side of the Mississippi. East of the Mississippi, it's declining. And then to the west of the Mississippi, it's also declining as well. All right. So what the good news is with the heat, COVID-19 is going away, and it's also starting to push the flu out as well with those winds and the heat. So that is the good news from there. This came to us from an alert, I'm going to say it, viewer, listener, and it's talking about the cicadas. And apparently, brood 14 is one of 15 separate broods that is going through the Midwestern, Northeastern, and Southeastern U.S. Every 17 years, the cicadas tunnel in masses to the surface mate, lay eggs, and then die off. Well, the biggest problem is noise pollution. So those areas of the country, we'll pull up the map here, and we see where the current brood 14, which is, I guess this is for, where are we at here? Down here. Which is the, what color is that? Bold, brownish, bold? Are the sections where it is the worst. All right, and that's for 2024. 2025 is green. So it looks pretty much like, well, East Tennessee, most of Kentucky, southwestern Virginia, part of West Virginia. Those are the areas that are going to be affected the most for 2025. So it is quite noisy if you go outside. God, yeah, map keeps getting bigger and bigger. All right, there you go. Well, nope, there we hit again. And you can see most of that is east of the Appalachians, most of Kentucky, tip of West Virginia, up into southwestern Virginia. You can see where the areas for us this year will be the worst. Am I reading that right? Yeah, 2025. So there you go. The green counties. And my county is one of them. So there you go. Well, my county where I'm at currently. All right. So that was brought to us by a listener or viewer, I guess. I don't know. All right. So latest earthquakes. Let me refresh this to make sure we've got the most accurate data, which we do. 3.3 in Western Turkey is the most recent one, and that was 5 hours 36 minutes ago. So there hasn't been a whole lot of shaking for a while. And let's see, the last one reported in the United States. Let's see, how far back do we have to go? And it looks like we have to go back a bit. Yeah, we're back into yesterday, and it doesn't look like there was any yesterday. So within the past 24 hours, I say that, and here we'll start rocking and rolling. Tennessee soon. Nothing in the States. Good news. Now, we do know down here, not down here, over in Hawaii, Kilauea has been quite active. And then the one up in Pennsylvania, the Spur volcano, is expected to become quite active. But Kilauea has been very active over in Hawaii. Those are the only volcanic areas. And if you look and see at the little red dots for earthquakes, see it's at a minimal at this time for the past 24 hours. Stay with it. It'll probably change. And this is the volcano map where we talked about up there. The Spur and Kilauea are the ones where they are currently watching them. They're code orange. And once again, looking at the earthquake shake map, we see earthquakes greater than 2.5 in the past day, with the most recent one being in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at a 3.6. That is good news. All right, we didn't get to this map yesterday. We only got a few minutes for it today, but we'll hit it real quick. Like, this is our events map. And we'll talk about biological things first. Human epidemic. U.S., New Mexico, Texas report the outbreak of the measles. We've talked about that before. We talk about other things like epidemic hazards. New Zealand, they've issued a measles alert. And we jump down into infection hazards. We talked about the recall of the listeria items. And in UK, a cryptosporidium outbreak has sickened 74 in Welsh, if you're in Europe. 74 people with a rare illness linked to farms, and that was over the weekend. Critical infrastructure, well, it's pretty much Haiti. We talked about that in the past, how they've had so many problems with their infrastructure, as them and Puerto Rico, several of the island countries. Probable or potable water supply disruption. Asia and Syria, you have had an issue in South Africa, Cape Town. Get into social incidents, and we start talking about Libya. Armed groups have clashed at the capital in Libya. That's in Africa. And then we go down to Nigeria. Terrorists have attacked Borno military base, capturing soldiers. Myanmar, Juanita bombs a school in central Miramar. At least 17 killed students. That's terrible. Nigeria, 23 persons killed in a fresh herders attack on the Benue community in Nigeria. I'm not sure what that's about. Conga, well, nope, that's not recent. All right, we go to public safety incidents. Suspected unexploded wartime bomb found on Hiroshima University campus in Asia, Japan. That was today. 5 stabbed at a sober living residence in Southern California. Mexico, a gunman kills the mayoral candidate and 3 others during a campaign event. Ooh, that's not good to run for office in Mexico, apparently. South Africa, 5 murdered suspect killed in shootout with KZN SAPS. Not sure what that is. In Kenya, a bandit killed 33 stolen cattle. Okay, the bandit killed 33 stolen cattle recovered. Terrorism, the only thing new, Pakistan. Suicide bomber kills 2 police officers, injures 3. We know about the war going on in Israel and Ukraine. An ecological disaster. The only thing there was talked about the toxic algae in Australia. We're getting real close on time here. Explosion, Afghanistan. 2 children killed in unexploded ordnance in West Afghanistan. Indonesia, 13 dead. Blast after Indonesia military ammunition disposal. Luxembourg, a major fire broke out in Bentrage over the weekend. Massive fire raging in Baltimore. We talked about that. A major fire broke out in Germany, UK. They had a significant fire overnight at Prime Minister Starmer's house. Interesting. Fire in Claremont, south of the capital. United Kingdom, Somerset firefighters from 11 fire stations dealt with a fire in Somerset over the weekend. South Africa, fire broke out at China Mall. And that was over the weekend. UK over the weekend. Hundreds of homes without power after substation destroyed by power. That's not good. Over the weekend in Egypt, huge restaurant fire in Heliopolis kills 1 person, injures 3. In Iran, fire erupts at a Tehran hotel. 130 people evacuated safely. And over the weekend, firefighters on the scene of a blaze at Lynn Valley Seniors Apartment Complex in North Vancouver. We've talked pretty much about the outdoor fires, in the earthquakes, landslides, Indonesia over the weekend, 4 killed. In Nepal, 1 dead. In Alaska, we talked about the possibility of an imminent eruption in a volcano, and they are raising the condition, we talked about that earlier, to orange, and that's in the Alaskan volcanic region. There is volcanic activity in the Filipinos. Of course, Kilauea, Spur, and Great Sitkin have all been kind of active, but they're expecting something major with the one that's showing signs of imminent explosion. Flooding in Malaysia and Thailand, and I'm running out of time here. Let's see. Industrial accident, 7-hour power outage in Cape Town. In UK, a power outage disrupts a London subway network. Release of toxic chemicals in the UK, 5 treated by ambulance crew. That was over the weekend at a UK biscuit factory. And India, at least 15 men die after consuming spurious liquor. Okay, I don't know why you would consume that. All right, so Belgian soldiers begin training in shooting incident in the UK, and 1 dead, 1 injured in a hot air balloon fire in Mexico. In the Indian Ocean, the failed Soviet Cosmos 482 crashed, and 3 killed as a car hits tree and bursts into flames in Long Island over the weekend. 1 dead, dozen injured in a crash on 60 freeway. I'm assuming it's in California. 9 killed in a Mother's Day crash in South Africa. Sri Lanka, 21 killed in a bus accident. Indonesia, 7 killed in a water accident. Ecuador, 5 fishermen who were adrift arrived in the Galapagos Islands after a rescue. We talked about other weather things, and that's it. We're out of time. David Beckmeyer is up next. If you're listening to Rainbow X Radio, you can tune in there. Yerg's Radio, yergsradio.com. But for me, Sportcat. I am done for the day here. I am out of here. I hope everybody has a great day. I will be back tomorrow from noon until 3 o'clock. I run a little bit over. Sorry, David. I'll let you go and have your network back to regular programming at Radio Yergs, Rainbow Radio, and Radio X. We will see you tomorrow over there soon. All right. So we are off the air with them. Everybody here on YouTube, thank you. Wendell says he just got done washing dishes and a storm is coming. Well, Wendell, I am so glad to hear you're domesticated. All right, everybody, have a great day. I got to find my music to get me out of here because apparently I played the wrong one when I started the show. I don't know. It's just one of those days. I seem to have a lot of those days, but hopefully in the near future, things will return to normal. Well, we'll see. All right, everybody, have a great day. I am out of here, and let me see. I got to hit my trademark exit here.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
That's right. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to no matter where you are and what part of the world. Have a good day, good night, good evening. Stay safe, stay sound. Sportcat is out. I will see you tomorrow right here. Same bat time, same bat place. KG says he'll see us in 22 hours. That's it, KG. You got it.